Greece's social fabric is being torn apart. Just after we left on the Wednesday the 3rd of April, Dimitris Christoulas, who was a 77-year-old pharmacist, shot himself opposite the Parliament in Syntagma Square. And he shouted out he didn't want his debts to be left for his grandchildren. And he left a note at his flat which said more than that. He hoped that young people would hang the government traitors, just as the Italians had hung Mussolini. This Troika's imposing austerity measures on the people of Greece in return for basically solving debt problems for the banks. We hear on the news over here, it's sort of presented as if the IMF are these benevolent folk. They come round and they say, we're sorry to see you've had a bit of bother and you've got a bit of difficulty. Well, here's a few bob to tide you over while you sort yourselves out. And this is even more presented in this way since they've got rid of the predatory Strauss-Kahn, that's the guy with the maids in hotels in America, and replaced him with this very well turned out Christine Lagarde, who looks like a sort of benevolent social worker who comes round to help you out. Actually, what they're more like is a protection racket. In return for the money which is going for the banks, they have imposed conditions through 2 memoranda on Greece which take apart the welfare state, and I'll give you a list of things in a sec of the sorts of things that they've done. More than that, they prevent other solutions. For example, socialist solutions of the sort we had in this country in the 40s, of nationalisation and investment and so on, because they refuse to give the loans unless they do that. So you've basically got looters posing as good Samaritans, and the money which they give, most of it anyway, goes to foreign banks. We found the delegation was both harrowing and inspiring. We were only there for 2 days in central Athens. Between us, we went to about more than 20 different places, meetings. So some people went to see mayors in places where the IMF were telling them they should sell off the beaches, and they were planting trees to stop people, with children from schools all associated with different trees so that they had something to fight for. We saw steel workers who'd been on strike for a long time, hospital workers in Thessaloniki who had occupied, newspaper workers who'd done the same, and so on and so forth, and also terrible things like a plaque to a young boy who was shot by police. 20% unemployment, and this is what we saw going around. 50% youth unemployment. 250,000 people depend on humanitarian organisations for food and clothing. There's mass homelessness, especially for non-Greeks. Wages have been slashed. You'll hear personal examples in a minute. In some cases, wages have been slashed retrospectively. 400,000 are owed back pay. I don't know if that figure's still the same, but it's high enough. From May, national collective bargaining and all national agreements will be abolished, and employment rights slashed. Those were actually defended in the Constitution, so that's an unconstitutional measure which is being forced. The minimum wage has been reduced by 22%. The youth minimum wage has been reduced by 33%. Unemployment benefits by 22%. Again, pensions similarly, more I think. The figures are probably known by our 2 friends from Greece. We went for a meeting with health service workers, and if we'd actually sat round before the meeting, the delegation people who went, and the delegation certainly had people from unions. We were to have had MPs, but there were important votes which they had to stay for, not least on the health and social care bill. So they didn't actually go with us in the end, but we had MPs, people from Coalition of Resistance, People's Charter, National Pensioners Convention, various people, and we divided up and went to different groups. One of the ones I went to was with health workers and the public sector union, which is something like Adadi, is it? Well, almost anyway, I almost got it. And if we'd sat round before the meeting, and I won't give you all the detail, but and had tried to think of the worst things we could do to patients and the worst things we could do to health service workers, we would never have dreamt up what we were told when the people came in and did it. And that is enormous. Actually, they've got half the number of public sector workers, not the number, the proportion, as France or the UK. The suggestion that they're paid profligate wages, actually they're about the lowest and coming down all the time. Their retirement arrangements are similar to France and Germany. Now it's quite clear that Greece is a test bed for the sorts of measures that international capital will apply to the people of any country it needs to. The countries it's associated with are called the PIGS: Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain, except there's another I, which is Italy, which you put in the middle. And a number of people said, the ones who spoke English idiomatically said, it's the pigs because we're guinea pigs. They're trying these things out on us. But one of the distinguishing things of Greek people, and one of the things, I said it was both harrowing, or if I didn't, I meant to, both harrowing and inspiring. There is a tradition of resistance in Greece, from the liberation struggle, from resistance struggles in the Second World War, from dealing with the aftermath of the division of populations with Turkey in the 30s, from overthrowing a military dictatorship. There's a character of resistance which means that everywhere you go you see the desire to fight back and rebuild Greece, even at the height of the military dictatorship. I mentioned Theodorakis just now. He put up, and Sto Perigali is written to a poem, one of his most famous tunes, written by Seferis. When Seferis died in, I think, but you can correct me, 1972, or it might be 1971. Now remember, you could be sent to prison for buying, playing, singing this music. The numbers vary in the reports you read, but 100, 200,000, maybe 250,000 people, when Seferis died, came on the streets and sang in unison Sto Perigali. And we met some people who were there on that day and still were moved by it. So the Greeks may sometimes be down, but I don't think they'll ever give up, and nor should we. So we want you to support CORE, fight with CORE, the coalition of resistance, but also to work out some things you can do in solidarity with the people of Greece and their resistance. Because as Alice Walker said, and if you didn't know it, it's worth knowing for the rest of your life, resistance is the secret of joy. And I'll say again, Ali Len Guy.